You may think that you've been cold, wet and hungry before, but I assure you Survival X brings a whole new level of that pain. Here's what it actually teaches you and why nobody forgets that experience. Yo, so I'm back with another video for you, and this week I'm going to be talking about Survival X. I'm going to tell you my experience with Survival X and maybe a couple of tips. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below and the bell button. Last weekend I've done the 3 most annoying Royal Marine rules, so if you haven't seen that, you can go watch that. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So what is Survival X? For you that don't know, basically it is what it says on the tin. You go and do an exercise as you would do any other exercise in the military, but you have to survive. So essentially, I'll tell you the story of mine now. So it started off as a normal exercise where we was going and doing normal stuff, basically living in a harbour with the rest of the troop and doing a lot of navigation. So this exercise was primarily navigation. In one location we was, and we was doing group navs, we were doing day navs, we were doing night navs. It was literally naving all day, every day long to try and get our skill with naving all the way to the top. So on the last day of us being in that specific area, because you don't get told this whilst you're on the exercise, obviously everything is a surprise. So that last day, we didn't know it was obviously our last day there, but that last day, we went and done a day nav, to which one of the people actually got lost.
I said to myself, no, I'm a dumb motherfucker.
And we spent, I think it was 7 hours looking for him until someone finally found him in a village which was absolutely miles away from where we were doing the nav. Long story short, we stayed up into the night to try and look for this person who finally found him, which set us back. So we had a lot of time to make up on this next yomp, and that what plays a big part in my experience in the survival X. Growing up as a kid, I actually really loved the idea of anything survival. I wanted to go and be put onto like a desert island and basically just survive by myself. I used to watch all of the Ray Mears, I think it was, on TV, where he would go and do all these survival things, getting water with bottles and all sorts of stuff like that. So I was actually quite looking forward to the survival X. But as I just explained, that whole scenario happened first, to which we then had to yomp a very, very long time, and it could have been arguably my hardest yomp into another part of an exercise because we were already so pre-fatigued with a lot of miles on the legs from all the navving from that week prior, staying in the field, and also then searching for 7 hours, like looking in ditches with torches all through the night, to then going into this survival X.
Oh no, it's good. It's good.
I remember we was yomping in the night and it literally started turning bright as we got into this survival X area. First things first, everything gets stripped off of you. You don't take your Bergen, you don't take no day sack, you don't take nothing with you. All you're allowed to take with you is your designated survival tin. The survival tin is probably about that big, and it's basically up to you what you put in there. They'll teach you stuff that you can put in there, but everybody's going to be different. So I think in mine, I had fishing wire and some hooks. I had a little snare, I had a lighter, some matches, an OXO cube, a tiny little folded up silver blanket, and I had some cotton wool which was dipped in Vaseline for the fire starters to go with the stuff that I had in there, and I think that was about it. So that is all that you have. So like I say, you get stripped down, you take off your jackets, you take off your t-shirt and everything so they can see that you're not trying to sneak anything in. You then go and get put into a certain area to which you have to then survive. Okay, so first things first, you're obviously making a shelter. That's cool, but like I say, the yomp was very, very hard. My boots were soaking wet from all of the navving and stuff. Bearing in mind, it was like going into winter and it was very cold at this point. So we then split down into groups, built our shelter. You can build your shelter any which way that you want to. You're taught a load of different methods in doing so. So we just made a standard lean-to, quite small, so we could get the people in there. There's always got to be one person on fire watch throughout the night. So the fire was obviously at the front of the shelter, trying to get some of that heat. Everybody else who wasn't on sentry was cuddled up next to each other in this tiny little shelter because it was so cold.
Wasn't that delicious?
Another standout moment, obviously the shelter is priority, and the fire, especially when it's wet, you have to put a lot of time into that fire. That's why it's good to have some of them things in the survival tin good to go, kindling. But yeah, the next thing that stands out is food. So food, you're obviously in a survival situation, so you get basically given a chicken which you catch, hold on to, and you're shown one demonstration of how to properly kill the chicken. So you obviously kill the chicken, skin it and cook it up. We get one bean tin basically, which is just the outer shell of a tin. That's all we're allowed to have. So therefore, when we've got the fire, we can make something to perhaps put the bean tin suspended over. With water, there was a stream, and that's another thing that you put into your tin is Puritabs, which is basically these tiny little tablets which purify the water. Arguably, when we sent one person, because everyone's got different jobs, when we sent one person to go get the water, he must have put like 4 times the amount of these Puritabs in, which I recommend you do not do, because by the time he traipsed all the way back, he was basically spent and couldn't go and get more water, even though the water just tasted of pure chemicals.
Oh, God, it's so good.
So that's another cool memory. But yeah, we had chicken, we had some vegetables, basically just chucked them in and just made a stew, and that was our food. All of this doesn't even sound too bad, and it actually wasn't on its own, but having that pre-yomp and all of that stuff beforehand meant that my feet were genuinely in absolute agony, probably the most painful that it was throughout the whole of training. And I was hobbling around, unable to be at like the top of my game, do you know what I mean? They were so painful, and everyone was in the same boat, so everyone was moving a lot slower than they would have been able to if they were clean fatigue. But again, in a survival situation, you're not going to be in clean fatigue, which is a massive eye-opener. So yeah, you are freezing cold, you're wet, you're in pain, and you're starving hungry, basically. And you're eating that food, and because you're so hungry, you're eating everything. So what does that mean? You're eating like the organs and stuff, the chicken heart, and that's basically all just going down rage in this stew. If you don't like that sort of thing, you probably will if you're starving hungry in a survival situation. That changes the game massively, I assure you. A lot of people actually now think that this thing is outdated, this exercise is outdated, so please take a minute now, tell me in the comments if you think it's actually still essential to have a survival X, or if you actually agree with it being outdated. Me personally, I think it should be still in there, and it creates good team bonding. It also creates that like perspective of what it's like to be in a survival situation, because in my eyes you can get into a survival situation at any point. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Final cool memory that I can remember from this exercise. Okay, so obviously night was drawing in fairly rapidly after we had the demonstration. Obviously we got checked over, we built a shelter, etc, etc. We were now trying to collect up as much firewood as we could before it got too dark. Someone is always on fire duty. Someone is always awake when the fire is going, because if that fire catches onto some of the ground and burns the shelter whilst everybody's in there, obviously it's not going to be a good day.
If he dies, he dies.
The most common thing that I probably have seen or would say that people do is not get enough firewood for the entire night. You do not want to be having to try and forage around for firewood in the middle of the night when it's pitch black with a tiny little red head torch on. That is not ideal. Whilst it's light, try and cut up as much wood as you possibly can, which we done. And I think as a team, we was probably one of the most effective teams at doing so. So we got a massive amount, probably more than what we actually needed. And in the middle of the night, unbeknown to us, obviously the training team still going to be coming around. So the training team snuck up, made sure that people was on the fire watch, to which they was. It wasn't me at the time, but I heard someone speaking, so I obviously woke up as well as the other lads. It wasn't me at the time, but a couple came round and basically said, do you think that you've got enough firewood to us? To which we kind of thought we did, because we had a massive pile of it. But obviously, you are never right, okay? So obviously we didn't have enough firewood. So we had to get up at that point and basically just forage anyway and cut up all this wood. And basically we had a massive pile of firewood left afterwards when we woke up in the morning. But it is what it is. It's training at the end of the day, and these things happen. So if I was to say 3 recommendations for a survival X, if you're going to do any survival X, is remember, everybody is in the same boat. If you've yomped that far in the wet boots, so is everybody else. Dig out for your team and they'll dig out for you, and the whole experience will be better. 2, do not put an excessive amount of the Puritabs in the water. It's probably not going to be good for your insides if you're putting all of these cleaning properties into the water. It takes like 1 Puritab for a big tub of water, like a big, I don't know how many litres. And 3, even if there's a chance you get woken up in the night to get more firewood, just get as much firewood as you possibly can whilst the light is there. More than what you think you would need, because you are going to burn through more wood than what you actually think, especially when it's cold and people are freezing, shivering there, body popping all over the show. But that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, let's make some gains. Boom.